Hello and welcome to the Simply Smart Business podcast. I'm your host, Nicki Ong, and I'm joined here today with Kevin. He's an SEO strategist, so I'm super excited about this conversation, and digital growth consultant with a proven track record of driving some serious traffic. And he's got a ton of accolades, which I'll include in the show notes, but suffice it to say, we're going to talk about some really amazing things today, including real-world SEO strategy. We're not talking any fluff today. Local SEO and small business domination in the rankings, and AI implementation, which is an SEO hot topic. So hello, Kevin, and welcome.
I'm very happy to be here. It's actually, it was a pleasant surprise to get invited.
Absolutely. Well, as an SEO person, I'm always on the hunt for finding other SEOs because I feel like a lot of times we live in our own little bubbles and we don't necessarily communicate with each other. Sometimes we end up competing against each other, but we all have our own thoughts about how SEO goes and how it should be. And I think it's really interesting to kind of cross those lines and really see what other people are doing and what's working for them and what's not. So I always like to start with story time. So can you give us the quick 20,000 foot view of how you got to where you are today?
I'll try because it's such a long story, and I'll try to make it as concise as possible, right? So I guess I'll just focus on the business side of things, right? I'm from Maine originally, right down the street from the town that you're from, I
Yeah.
believe. And so I grew up there. I went in the army. I got out of the army. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It was a train wreck, and so I ended up going into sales. I started in inside sales, worked my way into outside sales, and I stayed in it for like 16 years. It was long and arduous, a lot of years of hotel rooms and being on the
Mm-hmm.
road, and it just, it was great money, but having to worry about what your pay is going to be like was, am I going to make 100,000 this year or 300,000 this year? I don't, if you asked me at the beginning of the year, there's no real way to know.
Yeah.
So I get tired of playing the lottery. And I mean, not that SEO isn't the lottery. It's just a different kind of lottery, I guess. So I just got tired of it. I picked up blogging as a hobby. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was kind of my foray into really SEO. I did a lot of freelancing kind of stuff, working for friends of mine who had small businesses, and they just needed a presence online. They needed a website. So I learned how to build WordPress websites, and one thing kind of led to another. And then those early days were really scrappy. There was a lot of like trial and error, learn on the fly, learn as you go. Because as you know, you can't go to college to become an SEO. It just
Nope.
doesn't, you
Doesn't work
can
that
get a
way.
great digital marketing degree, but real world, hands-on experience is there's a, to me it changes so much. Like every morning I find something new. So
Absolutely.
that was kind of my my foray into it, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I have a very similar story. That's how I started out too, was I lucked into a job and it ended up being for a search engine optimization person. And it was 2008 and it was just becoming popular back then. And I had to learn on the fly too. And I find that people that did learn on their own through trial and error tend to be, I don't want to say the best at it, but I think that we tend to be a little bit scrappier, which you need in this industry, right? Because you have to be willing to be flexible, changes come and all that. So speaking of keeping all the fluff out of it, how can people think about real SEO strategy, real world SEO strategy that actually works? Things that are working in the trenches rather than just what Google's saying.
Well, I think one thing is going to kind of lead into another today. So AI
Mm.
is definitely, I know there were a lot of agencies and things early on that were, I would even say, frightened to use
Yeah.
AI because, they were afraid of getting hit with an algorithm update or whatever. I would still argue that I don't believe there is any way for them to 100% for sure say that any content is AI. I think if they're able to detect that, it's going to be images more than anything.
Yeah.
But real world SEO for me is, most of my clients that I've ever dealt with are small businesses that
Mhm.
are, they just need a leg up. And so for me, real world SEO is building out a really strong brand, really strong local presence. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that I would agree, especially about the AI piece. I spent a lot of, I guess it would have been 2021, 2022, speaking to a lot of my agency partners about why we don't need to be scared about AI, that it's simply another tool, right? That we still
correct.
need marketers, that we still need humans to do this work, but that AI can be a tool that helps us. And I
That's right.
agree about the knowing whether things are AI written. I mean, there's certain things you can just tell, of course, but
Right, right.
as it gets smarter, I notice that some of the things that I write, I'll sit there and just test it, right? Like write a paragraph and then run
Yeah,
it through different tools that measure whether it's AI or not. And it will say that it's AI, like or 50% AI written or what have
right.
you. And it's like it was completely human generated. So it is interesting to see how those things fluctuate.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, um, because we've already seen a lot of changes with AI, and
Mm,
one of the tools that I've been using a lot is it's actually an app. Well, you download it on your computer, and it can create some really serious content. It's a program called ZimWriter,
mm,
and by a guy named Matt Zimmerman, and it's probably one of the most useful tools that I have picked up in the last 2 years, because it allows you to use whatever model you'd like to use. So you can use Perplexity, you can use uh, Claude, you can use, I mean, anything you can think of, because it connects to OpenRouter.ai, and it'll
mm.
allow you to use any writing tool that you want to. So it's pretty neat. And
Very
they've almost
interesting.
they've they've come up with a way to automatically. This is not a pitch for ZimWriter, by the way, at
Yeah.
all. But I'm just saying it's one of the most useful tools I've used. You can include images automatically in your posts. It will upload automatically to WordPress on a schedule if you want, however you want it to do it. It's incredible, really incredible. And the writing is I mean, you really, there's very little you can do to make it more human written than it already
Mm.
is. So, you know,
That's huge. That's huge.
it's
And
really big.
I notice, and I'm curious if you notice that something similar, because I do a lot of blog writing for my clients, is that some of them will say, oh no, I'll take that over and I'll just use AI. And I say, great, go for it. No problem on my end. But a lot of them end up coming back and saying, I don't know what to do because it's all about the prompts, because the outputs is only as good as the input. So do you have any thoughts there, what clients might say to you about AI and your rebuttals?
I've actually dealt with that. In fact, early on, it was kind of funny. I was working with a company called, well, I'll mention them, I guess. Hennessy Digital, which we primarily did law firm SEO. And so in the legal space, everything has to be accurate. It cannot be off by a little bit, because they can get sued, and,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of implications there. Um, so from the legal side, I can honestly say, like, it is without a doubt. I think they were very apprehensive at first to use it.
Mm.
The clients were like, go, go, go. But even at Hennessy, we were like, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. We don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know what we don't know. And as time has gone on, I've seen more and more that, you know, there was another company I worked for called Chronic Guru, and we actually were in the cannabis industry. The owner there was very much like, I think this is something that we should really pursue and look into. And we also, not just from that perspective, but also from a developer perspective, we used it in
Hmm.
many different ways. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think clients have shifted one way or the other. I think they've
Hmm.
shifted, but I don't think they're shifting away from it.
Yeah, I don't see it coming anytime soon that we're shifting away from it. And for those who are in our space, online marketers, developers, designers, even, what would you say to them as far as, I know there's a question of job security and a concern for, well, am I even going to have a job or is it going to be given to a robot, basically? What would you say to that?
Well, that is such a good question, and it's something that's been on my mind. I'm kind of shifting more into account management now. So like I'm not tied to just one thing. And I would say
Hmm.
diversification is going to be, you've got to learn to go with the flow of things. And it's rapidly changing. So I don't know is the real answer. But what would
Yeah.
I say? I would say don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything for granted and always
Yeah.
learn and expand, you know.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great
That's what I
answer.
would say.
And I do believe that while AI takes a certain role in all of our jobs, that it's not going to take the entire job because again, I think that we still need that human foundation, that marketing foundation in order to get good outputs. And it just gives, in my mind, it just gives us more room to use our higher thinking brains for more complex tasks. So AI can take those, piddly, whether it's scheduling or content ideas or what have you, off of our brains, essentially, and
Hmm.
we can focus on the really high level thinking and
Right.
complex campaigns and structures, things like that.
Well, and I mean, so funny because I have a good friend of mine who's a developer and we're always
Mhm.
talking about AI.
Yeah,
Same thing. He's like, have you ever wondered, like, is this gonna like get rid of us? Like what, you know?
yeah.
And I don't think it's going to get rid of us anytime soon because it's still hallucinating like crazy and giving some of these absurd answers,
Hmm.
and it will throw in jargon that doesn't make any sense at all right into the middle of a
Hmm.
paragraph. Like,
Hmm.
you know, and it loves to use the word delves into everything. And it delve into that.
Anything I pull from it, I immediately remove delve or the world of drives me crazy too. And in
Oh
the
yeah.
world of marketing and
You
there's
can you can
certain phrases.
you can actually rate within ZimWriter. They have a nuke words feature. So you can
Nice.
put all of the words and phrases you don't want it to use. It's
Perfect.
amazing.
That's
Yep. Yep.
incredible. I think more of them need to adopt that. I'll have to check this one out. That's amazing.
And you can always change that. Like if you
Yeah.
find more words, you just add it to the list.
Yeah. So you said you have your pulse on AI. Do you have any sense of what's coming next or what we can be looking out for? Or
I
any
think
guesstimates?
yeah, I mean everything is guess, right? I can tell you that what I'm seeing right now is AI video is becoming very, very popular. I'm kind of in the process of kind of playing with it a little bit, but I'm not 100% there yet. What I think where I'm seeing it come in more and more now is from a development side.
Mhm.
There are a lot of different AI related things out there right now. I'm trying to think of, we were just talking about one yesterday. I can't even remember that. Well, there's one that I've been playing with a little bit called lovable.dev,
Mm.
and it can build out an entire website right in front of you.
Wow.
It's just crazy. Some of this stuff is just crazy.
That's
Um, and I think there was something I wanted to mention before, and I forgot what it was because of the way you worded that. There are I would say in the near future we're going to see probably within the next year is my guess we're going to see AI video being used more in TV shows that you watch and
mm.
things like that. And
Yeah.
that's something I think we've kind of seen that coming in a way anyway. And I was surprised because I was watching just recently the second season of Severance. I don't know if you've seen that
Mm.
show.
I do. I love it.
Yeah. It's
I love shows like that that
anyway.
really make you think.
Yeah, it's quite a show. Well, anyway, there was a scene because I can pick out AI generated video pretty well, and
Mhm.
there was one scene there when they were leaving the train station, and as the train is leaving off into the sunset or whatever, that scene was to me totally AI generated. Yep.
And it turns out it
I,
was, or were you able to find out?
I don't know. I don't know. But I swear it was. I swear it was. So it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me with the wave of trends that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, and I think within the next year we'll see more of that. And it's actually kind of, to me personally, it's a little bit scary because that also means they can use it in the news. They could,
Yes.
you know what I mean? So there are good and bad things about AI for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that I think that's why it's important to stay diligent and notice those things when you start to see that something doesn't look quite right and just use it as a way to consider that this is not real potentially and take it for what it is.
Right. I fight with the content policies problem that a lot of AI people have.
Sure.
I think it's great from the perspective that, yeah, you can't have people going out there and like using someone's images in a degrading way or
Right.
whatever. So
Right.
you don't want that. But there's got to be like this finite balance because some of it just won't let you do. It's almost ChatGPT has become very restrictive about what you can
Mm.
and can't do. And I think it's
Hmm.
gotten worse, actually.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how we can strike that balance because I totally agree. There's things that are okay and there's things that aren't okay, and hopefully we can find that middle ground. So transitioning a little bit here, you had mentioned your passion for local SEO, and I think for a lot of our listeners, especially for those with brick and mortars, this is a topic that's close to home, quite literally. So tell me a little
Mm.
bit more about see local SEO and how you, if you're able to, give any maybe quick tips for people in enhancing their local SEO.
I think, and I think almost any SEO that you talk to that knows local SEO is going to say
Mm,
something similar to what I'm going to say. But I think one of the things that's very overlooked. In fact, I had a locksmith that I was just talking to the other day, and he came to me, and I swear he was an SEO. He knew so much about it,
amazing.
and it was just like, dude, why are you even? Why are you? What? You want to hire me? Why? Like,
Right.
and he's like, no, 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 I want it done right. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm,
So it's like,
amazing.
I know what I know, but I know what I don't know. So we were talking about landing pages for paid ads, right? And
Hmm.
I said, yeah, that's great. I don't really have a focus on paid ads, but um, for the longest time, I have built out service pages. And then on top of that, I built out location pages.
Hmm.
So I think location pages is a great way to hyper focus on, you know, longer, longer tail keywords and with the location. So for example, I told them, somebody has a car lockout in Winter Garden, Florida. So when they
Hmm.
type in car lockout Winter Garden, Florida, you're probably going to come up because it's unlikely that every other company has made that page.
Hmm.
So that's been a huge focus. That would be a tip I would give any local businesses. Make sure you're utilizing that way of doing things because
Yeah.
I think it's very underutilized. Very, very underutilized.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that. I do remember when it first started seeing it, actually a client of mine wanted to test it out and I was very hesitant because at the time I was very concerned with duplicate content issues and other things because it's very difficult to create that much content for that many different locations. And I do think that's where AI can be a really good resource for something just like that.
Yep. That's exactly right. And I found a way to use AI and Spintax to do that.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And then to implement it across multiple pages. So
Wow.
like I don't know if you're familiar with the Divi platform,
A bit, yeah.
but yeah, so this actually works with Divi as well. So it
Wow.
will work well right within the cells on Divi. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Amazing.
But to go back to, I think, and this is something that I think every business should focus on right now is brand. Make sure your
Mm,
brand is well known across the web. Consistency is key, obviously. We talk about that all the time in SEO, NAP, name,
hmm.
address, phone number. Make sure your name, address, and phone number is the same everywhere across the
Yeah.
web. And to that point, one of the things that I utilized with Chronic Guru because they actually have 4 locations, and so what I was able to do was, we've renamed. First, we had to get a DBA for each location
Mm.
with this name because you know how Google is like, if you don't have any way to back it up, then we don't believe it.
Oh,
And so we created a DBA for all these locations with the
smart.
name dash Orlando dash
Hmm.
Deland, etc.
Hmm.
And so that created a real brand consistency with all 4 locations. And so before all of this, you could Google Chronic Guru and they'd come up. But now you Google Chronic Guru Orlando, they come up. Chronic Guru Sanford, they come up.
Nice.
And so you can look in Ahrefs and it will show you, which I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's a tool, it's a keyword tool, but you can look to see and all they're ranking locally very, very well for
Mm,
all of those terms. A lot of the
awesome.
things we use there were citations as well to help per location to help build up, the authority. And it works. It works if you work it.
And especially in an industry that's becoming so competitive. I mean, by the day, there are new shops opening, so that's a tough one.
In 2025, I firmly believe that brand identity, and I know this is going to sound weird coming from an SEO guy, but social media presence is
Mm,
going to be, those two things primarily are going to be huge for pushing your business. And
interesting.
I see people on Facebook now that were never on there before, and I'm like, wait a minute, you said you were never going to be on Facebook. Yeah, well, everybody else is now.
Mm,
So, and I'm also seeing more businesses being promoted on Facebook.
mm.
So people also complain, I don't see my friends post. Yeah, that's because you're being advertised to all day long.
Yeah,
Yep.
the algorithm is a fight. That's interesting you say social media. I've been talking with a lot of colleagues of late about social media and how tough it is to get exposure there, but that it seems like a necessary evil. And I actually just
Yeah.
yesterday saw it compared to like modern billboards now, where people aren't getting the engagement that they once were on social media, but that it is still important because it's like a billboard, and that people may not like or comment anymore, but it still gives you visibility and people still
Hmm.
check it, right? They go to your website and one of the first things they might go to is your social media to see if you're around, if you're showing up, if you're a real live business. So I
Yep.
would agree with that.
Yeah. And I think it's good to understand what platforms are going to work well for you type of business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I mean, if you're an auto mechanic, just using that for an example, but you know, Facebook is okay. I would be there. Instagram might be awesome. In fact, there was a
Mm-hmm.
guy that owned a garage, and I was watching his Instagram, and he just does these little short videos, but they're funny things that happen in the shop every day. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, that's smart. That's just so smart.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
relatable, it's comical, it's fun, different
yeah,
spin on
yeah.
things. Yeah, that's wonderful. Amazing. Any other tips or tricks that you would leave our audience with? A lot of people are going to be, business owners and marketers, and maybe like your locksmith client, know a little bit about SEO, enough to be dangerous, but not quite know as much as perhaps we might.
It's the advice I would give anyone who's an entrepreneur or starting a business is, and this is just from an SEO perspective, like from my angle, don't give us a hard time. Just go
Good
with the
one.
flow.
Yeah.
I'm not saying trust me with your wife, but I'm saying like trust me, like I'm here to help your business. I'm not here to hurt your
Yes.
business. And I think also, and this is something that every SEO should keep in mind, when you're talking to these clients, you want to make sure that they understand that you're there, you're on their side. You're not
Mm,
trying to suck money out of them. And the problem with that is a lot of these clients have already been burned. There are
mm,
really bad SEOs out there on Fiverr gigs and stuff that are just going to take your money, and
yeah.
they're not going to do much work. They'll tell you they did, but always lead with data and show the client what you're doing. And I don't think you can lose that way. And I would
Mm,
conversely, I would also say to anybody looking to hire an SEO, if they don't lead with data when they're talking to you, if they don't say, this is where you were, this is what we plan to implement, and this is what we expect to see,
mm.
then you're probably not talking to the right SEO.
Yeah, agreed. Because the sad reality is that there's a lot of SEOs, to echo your point, that take a, $1,000 a month, 15, $2,000 a month plan and do absolutely nothing with it because they figure people can't check it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've had to do a lot of the therapy work for some clients over the years to work through those
Therapy work.
things, because I mean, it's hard once you've been burned. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the cannabis industry in particular, from the time I got involved with working there, I was told it's very hard to trust people in this industry to begin with, let alone an SEO. He goes, so
Yeah.
the fact that you got hired is like a miracle. because I don't hire just anybody. I
Yeah,
was like, okay.
it's true. Well, and that's the good news, right? Is that there are good people out there that do good work and get good results. And it's
Yeah,
important to keep that in mind in any industry, but especially ours. It's unfortunately a place that people have been taking advantage of, and it's important to know that there are good SEOs out there.
right on, right on. Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
Awesome. Well, this has been such an incredibly insightful conversation, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. What is the best way for listeners to connect with you online?
I would say if you go to, well, there's a couple different ways. So I have a I have a small agency here in Winter Garden, Florida, and that is smallbeardigital.com. If you want to reach out to me professionally, you can go to kevinnoyes.com, KevinNoyes.com, and that will take you to my page, my About Me page, or whatever. And or you can just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm open to connections. So
Perfect. And I'll
yeah,
include all those in the show notes so people can click right on those for you. Do you have any
excellent.
final words of wisdom or encouragement for our listeners?
All I can tell you is that you need to get off the second page of Google.
Mm,
Get on the first page, because that great websites die on the second page every single day.
well said. Well, Kevin, it's been such a pleasure having you here on the podcast. And to our amazing listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and listen to our next episode of the Simply Smart Business podcast, where you'll get more inspiring conversations and actionable strategies that will help your business. Until next time, we'll see you then.